The RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat has yet again made a statement which some observers and commentators call, quote unquote, bold and welcoming statement to promote unity and harmony in the country.
By and large, in his statements of unity, promoting harmony between communities, there have been some inconsistent statements as well. I personally believe that when you have an organization of 100 years, the transformation cannot take place overnight. The Hindutva of V.D. Savarkar, which happened in the wake of Khilafat movement, in the wake of demand of Pakistan, was of a different kind. The problem, Afrida, is if you go into history, there is no end to it. And therefore, a country which aspires to be a developed nation by 2047 should look forward rather than look backward.
You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. The RSS chief, Mohan Bhagwat, has yet again made a statement which some observers and commentators call, quote unquote, bold and welcoming statement to promote unity and harmony in the country. While there are others who are circumspect and who feel that there is always one statement followed by another that balances it out. So there is only so much that you can draw out from such words, and it largely ends up being inconsequential because this is not the first time that Mr. Bhagwat has made this so called overture of peace and harmony. So let me put this in context. This is about the statement made in Pune on the subject of India as Vishwaguru on the 19th of December, when Mohan Bhagwat said that we have been living in harmony for a long time and therefore we need to keep at it after the construction of the Ram Mandir. He said some people now think that they can become leaders of the Hindus by raking up similar issues in new places. So he sent out a word of caution saying, let's just stop at that and not rake up similar issues of temples being buried under mosques over and over again. So there is a pushback now. Say, for instance, an organization called the Akhil Bharatiya Sant Samiti, which has objected to these statements. These are all Hindutva aligned organizations. They say religious matters should be decided by religious leaders. So there is this pushback, like I said, which comes after Bhagwat advocated for an inclusive society and suggested not looking for shivlings in every mosque. So let me welcome Mr. Faizan Mustafa joining me here on the program. He is the Vice Chancellor of Chanakya National Law University in Patna, also an author and a commentator. Good evening, Professor Mustafa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me begin by asking you then, because you are one of those, I imagine, who believe that this is a message of peace. This must be welcome. It is also very bold in a way, because many believe it is sort of contrarian to the RSS ideology and the temple politics, which has been practiced by BJP, drawing from the RSS ideology. Why do you feel that Mr. Bhagwat's words, like you say, must be taken seriously by liberals and must be welcomed?
No, Afrida, I have been writing on Mohan Bhagwat for almost 10 years. My first article on his statement was in 2015 Bihar elections, when he said that there is a need for a debate on reservation, and BJP disowned the RSS chief within 24 hours. And in 48 hours, RSS spokesperson also tried to twist what the RSS chief has said, that his intention was not this and that. And in the whole country, I was the only one who, after waiting for good 2 weeks, wrote an article in support of the RSS chief, saying that everybody got him wrong. He has not said reservation should be abolished. What he has said, that let us debate what
Yeah.
are the benefits, whether the benefits of reservation have percolated down the ladder. And he has not indicated, this is his problem, what will be the issues of debate. So I identified all the issues on which one should have a debate on reservation. And since then, in last 10 years or so, I have written about 15 articles on him. So there is a consistency by and large in his statements of unity, promoting harmony between communities. There have been some inconsistent statements as well. I personally believe that when you have an organization of 100 years, the transformation cannot take place overnight. And that is why I'm saying that the liberals and Muslims, one must have patience with Mohan Bhagwat, and two,
mm,
they must understand that RSS chief, by making these statements, is trying to
mm,
initiate a kind of perestroika in India, that the Hindutva is trying to reinvent itself. The
mm, mm,
Hindutva of V.D. Savarkar, which happened, in the wake of Khilafat movement, in the wake of demand of Pakistan,
mm.
was of a different kind.
Yeah.
And RSS chief is saying that Hindus and Muslims, they have the same DNA. When he is saying that, to say that Hindus alone have a right to live in India or
Mm,
have a superior right to live in India, you see that he is trying to go back and
mm,
deviate from the original Hindutva position, that
mm,
only those for whom India is a Pitra Bhumi as well as Punna Bhumi would alone have a right to live here. And that is why I believe that, look at the kind of criticism the man is facing. I had quoted in my latest article Madhu Kishwar
mm,
is speaking all kinds of things against RSS chief. The former CBI chief has also said that he is not even a representative of Hindutva, even though
mm,
RSS chief, in my opinion, is the most authoritative Hindutva voice in the country. All other
mm,
organizations of Hindutva basically draw sustenance and
mm.
inspiration from RSS. And then this Sant Samiti, to which you made a reference in your
Yeah.
intro, to which I also made a reference in my article in Indian Express, they are saying that, RSS should mind its business and should not interfere in the religious matters where our word should prevail. So
Hmm.
he is
Would you
fighting.
say, Mr. Mustafa, that Mohan Bhagwat is trying to draw a difference or strike a difference between bigotry and Hindutva? He's not deviating from the Hindutva ideology. He is trying to say that it's not the form of bigotry that is being projected as Hindutva. Do you believe that is perhaps his intention here?
I think he is going ahead with more than that. It's not just a
Mm,
condemnation of bigotry, and I see, a systematic evolution in the man. So, to begin with, in sometime in 2018 or so, he is saying that the British are responsible for sowing the seeds of communalism. And
mm,
he picks up the example of Haldi Ghati and says that, well, the Mughal forces were led by Man Singh and Afghans were fighting on the side of Maharana Pratap. And then he also said in another statement, the Britishers told Hindus that if you do not control Muslims, they are aggressive people, they will overtake you in everything, and told Muslims that due to your numerical inferiority, you have a great threat from a massive majority of Hindus, some over 80% at that point of time. Then
okay.
he says, why we are talking of unity? Unity should be there when there are two different persons. Both Hindus and Muslims are one and same. And
Yeah.
therefore, unity is not to be talked like this.
Yeah, I'm in fact
Then
putting
he
out some
says,
of his statements on the screen as well because he has made a number of statements, references, which you are also making. So carry on, Mr. Mustafa. Yeah.
so what I'm saying, then he says that there cannot be Hindu Rashtra without Muslims.
Hmm. Hmm.
मुसलमानों के बिना हिंदुत्व की परिकल्पना असंभव है.
Yeah,
Now this
September
is
2018 is when he said that. So, like you said, there has been a
so what,
consistency in this messaging.
yeah, that then he, by 2021, he is saying that their DNA is same. Then he is
Hmm.
saying those who are indulging in mob lynching are not Hindus.
Hmm.
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 Then he's saying
Yeah.
Muslims should not fear. Then he's saying Hindus don't have a superior right to live in India.
Yeah.
So I believe that he is evolving. Then in the context of Gyanvapi, he's saying, why are you looking for shivling in every mosque? And
Yes.
the latest statement is a very, very pointed statement. It is an
Hmm.
indictment of some leaders who made
Hmm.
political fortunes out of Ram Temple campaign. Now he says that Ram Temple campaign had nothing to do with politics, but as you must have read in my article, I quoted
Yes.
that late
Yes.
Sushma Swaraj herself in
Hmm.
Bhopal in
Hmm.
2000 had admitted that it had nothing to do with religion and it was largely political. But
Hmm. Hmm.
what the point which he made in the context of Gyanvapi and a point which he has reiterated number of times is that that was a different kind of a case. Here was a birthplace of Lord Ram, and the kind of support which RSS given to Babri Masjid Ram Janmabhoomi campaign, it will not extend similar campaign to other places of worship. And
Yeah.
now he is saying that there are people who want to quickly become the political leaders on the basis
Hmm.
of such campaigns. I think it is a huge indictment of a new breed of leadership which wants to experiment with something which Lal Krishna Advani, initially started
But the
with the.
support is not coming for his statements. I mean, almost stands alone in this. Am I right in that observation that he seems to be isolated? I'll
Yes,
play out a few
yes.
statements, Mr. Mustafa, before I come to you on that about whether he's isolated and alone in this. Because let's
इसी पे
hear
उन्होंने
out
वो
the Hindu
टिप्पणी की थी।
seers who
जहाँ
have
तक मैं समझता
reacted to
हूँ,
this.
जो इतिहास है वो इतिहास की जानकारी नई पीढ़ी को अवश्य होना चाहिए कि हमारे साथ क्या हुआ, कैसे हुआ और भारत में किस तरीके से नंगा नाच किया अताताइयों ने, और किस तरीके से, जैसे कुछ तो प्रत्यक्ष है, प्रमाण है उसके, जैसे भोजशाला है, कृष्ण जन्मभूमि मंदिर है, कृष्ण जन्मभूमि, और आपका जो है काशी विश्वनाथ, ये जो है ये तो हमारे यहाँ वो एकदम जो है ज्ञानवापी जिसे कहते हैं, ज्ञानवापी उसके नाम से ही प्रतीत होता है कि वो मंदिर की जगह है।
There is also Yogi,
देखो,
Baba Ramdev, who was asked about
ये
this.
सच है कि आक्रांताओं ने आकर के हमारे मंदिर, हमारे धर्म स्थान, हमारे सनातन के गौरव चिन्हों को नष्ट भ्रष्ट किया और इस देश को बहुत क्षति पहुंचाई। सनातन के जितने भी हमारे तीर्थ थे, हमारे देवी देवताओं की प्रतिमाएं थी, उनको खंडित किया। अब उनको कितना दंडित करें, कितना न करें, ये तो काम न्यायपालिका का है। लेकिन इतनी बात जरूर है, जो हमारे बड़े तीर्थ हैं, बड़े गौरव के स्थान हैं, उनके ऊपर तो कुछ निर्णय करना ही चाहिए, जिससे कि जिन आक्रांताओं ने सनातन का विध्वंस मचाया, उन पापियों के उस पाप का थोड़ा फल तो मिलना चाहिए।
So I want your observation and your comments on two things. Of course, on whether Mr. Bhagwat is alone in this, and secondly, Nyayapalika ka kya role hai. So if you can expand on
Yeah,
that, please.
it looks like that he doesn't have the kind of a support which we expect, but it
Hmm.
will take time. It will take time. In fact, when some leading Muslim intellectuals met Mohan Bhagwat ji, I had written a piece that both sides must be ready for frustrations and disappointments because both sides may go back to their original stated positions.
Hmm.
And a dialogue requires lot of patience. This is what I had written, and exactly the same thing has happened. But he keeps saying that we must continue to make endeavor. It is like the same uniform civil code word which comes to my mind, that the state shall endeavor to have a uniform civil code. So RSS chief and all of us must continue to make endeavor that we do not live in past. What Baba
Yeah.
Ramdev ji is saying,
Hmm.
he is suggesting that we settle the historical disputes by the invocation of judicial forum. But the
Yeah.
Supreme Court itself, in the
Hmm.
Babri Masjid judgment, a five-judge constitution bench has said that the principle we follow is non-retrogression, and the
Hmm.
court is not the right place to rectify the historical wrongs. The problem, Afrida, is if you go into history, there is no end to it.
There is no end
You
to it.
cannot
Yes.
stop just on the demolition of temples by Muslims. You have to go
Hmm.
to the
Hmm.
demolitions of, Buddhist places of worship by the
Yeah.
Hindu king, and the demolition of Kul Devta temples of each other by the Hindu kings. So where you are
Where will
really
you
going
stop?
to stop? And
Hmm.
therefore, a country which aspires to be a developed nation by 2047 should look forward rather than look backward. In any case, the law today does not allow us what Baba Ramdev ji is saying, or other spiritual guru is saying that itihas pata chalna chahiye. When the law says
But
that
did we
whatever
not
is
have
the
Mr.
religious character, just
Chandrachud?
one minute,
Yeah.
Afrida, whatever
Hmm.
is the religious character cannot be changed. So, as we say in Urdu, gunahe bi lazzat se kya fayda?
Hmm.
Why
Hmm.
are we trying to see what was the exact character? Isn't so? If we cannot change it,
Hmm.
in social relations, we need a healing touch. The 1991 law provided that healing touch.
Yeah.
I have myself written, and this is my position, and many liberals and many Muslims are very upset with me, Afrida, for writing this. I said that in the case of Babri Mosque, in terms of historical and archaeological evidence, nothing has been proved that a Ram temple was demolished to construct the Babri Mosque. And this is the biggest finding for Muslims in the Babri Masjid judgment, because this was the central plank of Vishwa Hindu Parishad
Hmm.
and the whole
Hmm.
temple movement,
Yeah.
that a grand Ram temple was demolished by Mir Baqi and a Babri Mosque. On the contrary, in case of Mathura as well as in case of Kashi, there is historical evidence
Hmm.
that these two temples were partially, demolished. And since there is evidence of this, it is better that the local communities in the two towns, very sensitive towns, historical towns, should sit together, and through mediation, through arbitration, without involving clergy, without involving political leadership, without involving national leadership, should amicably resolve it. Why I am saying so? In litigation route, one party wins, the other party loses. In
Hmm.
mediation and arbitration, nobody loses, nobody wins. So
Hmm.
let there be a solution on which both the parties can come out and say, we also got something. And that would create better harmony and unity in the country, to which Mohan Bhagwat.
I understand what you're saying, Professor Mustafa. I do understand that in an ideal situation, you want that both sides should have that good sense prevailing over them to go through mediation wherever there is that sort of a dispute. But in reality,
If the
these are
goal of
competing narratives.
2047 is to be achieved.
Yeah, but these are competing narratives. There are enough people out there who are saying that देखिए हम जहाँ पे मंदिर थे वहां पे पांव रख के मस्जिद के अंदर एंटर किया जा रहा है. तो there is this attempt to whip up communal sentiments, and of course one may argue that there are enough political agendas behind it as well, because after all the current ruling party relies on that Hindu consolidation, and of course there could be political agendas behind it. But how are you going to ensure that these political narratives, where one side is clearly louder than the other, that a voice of Mohan Bhagwat or a voice of Professor Faizan Mustafa will be heard or will be consequential?
You see, it is the civil society ultimately which has to come forward. The ordinary people have to take things in their hands and say enough is enough.
Hmm.
And they say that let us stop this madness of settling historical disputes at the cost of country's development. Ultimately, our GDP is not going to rise if we construct two more or five more temples.
Hmm.
It's not going to happen. So let us concentrate on our GDP. Let us concentrate on our healthcare, on our education. Now, what happens? Many people would say, well, Mohan Bhagwat is inconsistent. Yes, he has been inconsistent. But my answer to that is it is difficult to come out of your 100 years old narrative like this. So
Yeah.
let us understand the difficulties in this transition. To
Hmm.
his own people may not be absolutely on board, even though RSS is such a disciplined organization that to say that the RSS chief can simply speak anything out of blue without any consultation, it's difficult to believe. So I understand that
Hmm.
within RSS also there is a thinking that what do you do with some 20 crore people? You know, you have to find a solution, and a final solution kind of a thing which some people think is not possible. When 1% Jews in Germany, in 30s and 40s could not be completely eliminated, how can you do it in 2024, 2025 about such a large number of Muslims? And a country cannot develop if 20% of its minorities really don't develop. So I think that better sense is going to prevail, and people will understand we should not simply condemn RSS chief because of some inconsistency, because of what other RSS leaders and Hindutva leaders are speaking. On the other side, also you find that there have been Muslim fanatics as well who have also been making, extremely provocative speeches. So I think give them space. uh, the problem with many of our liberals is that they want immediate solutions. Like many Muslims say, let RSS chief come on record that he disassociate himself from VD Savarkar, from Golwalkar, from this and that. I think this is an unjust demand.
Hmm.
Can a
Hmm.
similar demand be made by Hindus that let all the Muslims, disown everything what happened in past? In any case, what Baba Ram, Guru Ramdev was saying, for whom I have a very high respect for popularizing yoga, and his business model is
Hmm.
widely appreciated. He has made big fortunes also out
Hmm.
of that model. How can present generation be held accountable for something which happened hundreds of years ago? Under criminal law, if I commit a crime, my father,
Hmm.
my brother, my son cannot be held liable. So how
Hmm.
can you hold me accountable for something which some ruler has done? When a state does anything, neither today anybody can be held accountable, not in future any generation can be held accountable, nor for the misdeeds of past rulers
Hmm.
uh, present generation of any community can be held accountable.
Right. As a closing remark, I want to know from you to those who are discrediting Mohan Bhagwat and his credentials and saying he's firstly not a Hindu leader. And secondly, what do you make of the political ramifications of all of this, where you have the BJP and the RSS, the political ideologue, also in some sort of a tangle, it seems now, where leaders have made statements in the past saying that it's time we grow out of the wings of RSS. How are you looking at this relationship now evolving after these statements or in the political context of this country?
No, one, I wrote in my article also that the next logical step, if you appreciate RSS chief, he will
Hmm.
feel encouraged in making more such statements, and he would like to then take the next logical step of using his influence with the central government and with number of BJP state governments to see to it that you don't have any more new disputes coming up like this. This is one level. Two, I think uh, he can use his influence to tell people that in a democracy, how can you refuse to give representation or consider such a big number of your population? Look at Kundarki result.
Hmm.
65% Muslims are there, and a BJP candidate is winning with over 1.25 lakh or 1.5 lakh votes. It cannot happen unless Muslims are supporting. Then the data about 2024 election says that 12% Ashraf and 9% Pasmanda Muslims supported BJP. So, in the cabinet, when you don't have any representation of the largest Muslim minority in the country, uh, it goes against the principle of democracy that all sections of the population must be represented, the diversity of the country should be represented. So, RSS chief has tremendous influence over the BJP government, and there would be some days, some consultation, some introspection, some discussion between the Sangh and the political leadership about the Muslim question. And I am
Hmm.
sure that ultimately they would say that let us celebrate country's diversity, let us
Yeah.
celebrate the contribution made by Muslims, in India, and
Hmm.
let us, as a principle of democracy, give them whatever is their legitimate share of power in a democracy. I have always said that the question of minority rights should be lifted from this narrative of communalism versus secularism and
Hmm.
should be talked in terms of equality and in terms of democracy. It is a question of democracy that a
Hmm.
large group as about 20 crore Muslims, they feel fully secure in this country. They are, properly represented in all institutions of the country, and they have nothing to do either with Pakistan or with the past Muslim rulers, as
Hmm.
Hindus have nothing to do with past Hindu rulers. Rulers know no religion. In one article, I had
Hmm.
gone against RSS chief when he said Hindus have been at war for 1,000 years. I said this statement is not right,
Hmm.
because Hindus or religions are not at war, rulers are at war. And I
Yeah.
said when Islam was not even born, in Ramayana you had a war. When Islam was
Yeah.
not born, in Mahabharata you had a war. When Islam was not born, Christianity was not born, you had Kalinga war. There have been wars between Hindu rulers, many wars. And therefore, rulers fight for political causes. At times, rulers of past and rulers of today use religion for their political purposes. The
That's very
enlightened,
important. Hmm.
aware citizenry must understand this
And must
use
see through it. And they
religion by the
must see
politics.
through it. Yeah, I think that's a
And
very valid point, Professor Faizan Mustafa, that you made, that, we must not punish the current generation for the wrongs of the past. How far back will you go? There is no end to it. And I'll take your words from the article that you wrote about how we have to let bygones be bygones if we want to be a developed nation. Professor
correct.
Faizan Mustafa, thank you so much for joining me on Viewpoint. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you very much.